There we go. Now we're recording. Oops.
We got another half an hour of class.
So why would a depository institution typically offer higher interest rates for CDs with a longer time period and more money invested?
That's how they make their money.
Exactly. Because they have a longer period of time to invest your money, so they make more money. All right. What are some of the features of a CD? Deposits must be held for a certain length of time, typically 7 days to 10 years. I've never seen days, I've seen that 1 year, but I guess they're out there. Deposits can range from $100,000 to $250,000. If funds are held for the designated time period, then there is a limited risk and no fees. The risk comes in when you pull it out early, because you get hit with the fines. So, matching savings tool to goals. Amount of funds available, how much money do you have available to, again, this may be something you want to put in your budget. I want to put away, $500 to start, my savings. So you put it into a savings account, so you get your $500, and then you can take that $500 and put it into a mutual fund, or a CD. So how much funds do you have available? Again, remember, the higher the amount of money you put into a mutual fund or a CD, the higher interest rates are typically going to be. Purpose of the money saved. Why are you saving that money? Do you want to get a car? Do you want to pay off the house? Do you want to buy a house? There's different things this all depends on the goals that you set for yourself and your family, right? So when money is needed, when will you need the money? If you did not need the money for a year or 2 years, then you can put it into a CD and just let it sit there and accrue a higher interest rate. Liquidity, how liquid does the money need to be? Where you're going to need it right away, like an emergency fund, you may need it right away, so you want to make sure it's liquid. Interest, how much interest do you want to get? How much, you want a higher interest rate, you're going to have to put in higher money, and you may have to take some risks. Savings tools requirements, and then fees. You got to take into account, are there any fees? All these things consider these factors when determining the most appropriate savings tool for your financial goals. If your goal is to create an emergency savings fund, then you want a savings account, and then funds are easily accessible, right? Because if you start saving and 6 months down the road, your refrigerator goes, right? It's going to cost you $300-400 to get a new one, or more, depending on your tastes, how extravagant. But you can get some really nice refrigerators for $1,000, right? It's going to cost you some money. So you don't want to pay a fine because you pulled your money out early. You're going to want it into an account that's liquid. So a savings account would be a good place for that. If your goal is to purchase a new car within a year, you put it into a money market account, you get a higher interest rates are available. Again, money markets typically will have a threshold. You want to make sure you don't go under that threshold, because that's when they hit you with the fines, the fees. So you get a higher interest rate though, because you're not going to need that money for a year, right? You're putting it in there, you're not going to touch it, because that's for your car. That's your savings for it. Analyze the features of a savings tool among depository institutions. Terms and conditions such as interest rates, fees, and minimum balance requirements may vary. So look before you put your money into a bank, or look at the different programs they offer. Shop around. You shop around for shoes, or if you went to buy a car or a house, right? You're going to shop around until you find something that fits your family's needs. It's the same thing with your savings account. Shop around. Look, just because the bank's around the corner doesn't necessarily mean it has the best account for you, right? Liquidity. Higher interest rates are a trade-off for lower liquidity. So, in other words, what that means is, if you want a higher interest rate, you may have to let it set in there for a while. So it's not going to be very liquid. most liquid, least interest, least liquid, highest interest. So that, you can kind of get the idea there. If you want a higher interest rate, you're gonna have to let your money set, you can't touch it. It's not gonna be very liquid. Checking account, savings account, money market, deposit account, and certificate of deposit. That's how it goes down that pecking order. So if you can let your money set for a while, then go ahead and do a certificate of deposit. You're gonna get a higher interest rate. But if you're if you're setting up an emergency fund, then you probably want a savings account. If you just wanna pay bills, then you wanna put it into a checking account. So understand the features of savings, tools to select the most appropriate tool for each financial goal. And that's all she wrote for that one. I think, hold on. Go.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's very true.
It's the only way you can keep sanity in this world. Okay, so that's it. So you get a good idea of how to set up your savings plan, right? It's just like your budget, right? Budget plan, your savings plan. What are my goals? What do I want to do? And which tool is going to best fit me? And then once you figure out the best tool, shop around, you know, and look for the best deal for you, right? If your money can be somewhat liquid, then you want to get a mutual fund that has a low fees, you know, or maybe a lower limit, you know, maybe $100 limit instead of a $500 limit. But you might have to trade off some interest. So it's just do some research and you'll make the right decision for your family and for your needs, right? Make sense?
Yep.
All right.
What about profit sharing? Do you know about that?
Profit sharing is typically when you work for an organization and they will allow you, or they'll give you some money as a, so if the business does really well, they'll give you like a higher bonus. If the business doesn't do real well, then you won't get very much, or if anything at all.
Right.
You know, so profit sharing, what that does is that incentivizes you to work harder, because if you make the business profitable, then your bonus is going to be higher.
Right. Yeah, because I work for Harris Teeters and we get 2 bonuses a year.
Okay.
And I'm sure they do really good.
So you wanna make sure, what are you gonna be doing there?
Deli?
Okay. So when you're nice to the people and they wanna come back because they wanna see Lori
Yeah.
and they make higher money, then you get a bigger bonus.
Right.
That's how that kinda works, right?
Okay.
So be nice to people, Lori. Okay, so now so we go with savings. Any questions, comments, concerns? No? It all starts though with what we said last week in the budget. Start putting money away. Pay yourself every time you get a pay, even if it's $5. Just pay yourself. Put it into a savings account. Right? Put your money that you're going to pay your bills into the checking account, and then put some money away into a savings account. And then when you get to a certain point, you can take that money and skim it off and put it into a mutual fund or a CD or something that's going to give you higher interest. Right? So it's a plan. It depends on your goals and what you want to do. Now we're going to talk about credit. Credit is really is something that really is important, and I think a lot of people that I've talked to don't really realize how important credit is. So I'm going to talk about credit. Your present self impacts your future self. So what you do today is going to impact what happens to you in the future. You know, so you receive goods and services today with the promise to pay back the determined amount of money, usually in small increments plus interest in the future. So if you take out a credit card today and you don't make, and you run your credit card up, and you don't make the minimum payments or more, then you're gonna have problems in the future. And we'll get into that as we go here. Credit availability depends on if lenders trust you will pay back the loan as agreed. So, there is a credit score, and we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes as well. But if your credit score is low, you will have to pay, either have to pay a higher interest rate, or you're gonna not get any credit at all. So it really depends. Sources of credit. There are many sources of credit, including private mortgage companies, depository institutions like banks, automotive dealerships. A lot of dealers, especially today, they will give you credit from the dealership itself. So you pay the dealership. A lot of them will have some lending institution, take the risk. But, of course, there are some automotive dealerships that will allow you to, you pay them. And believe me, if you miss a payment, your car is gone. Guarantee you that, and quick. Government. Government is a source of credit. Credit card companies. Insurance agents. Pawn shops. What credit sources provide for the most favorable terms? Which of these credit sources provide the most favorable terms? Tell you one thing, it's not credit card companies because they're interested.
I would say the bank.
Yeah, probably the bank. If you're gonna go get a loan, you wanna go through a bank. Right, you're gonna get better interest rates than you would, say, credit cards. You can pay up to 20-30%. Easy, and that's, so if you had $10,000 that you owed on a credit card and you just paid the minimums, I believe it's like 30 years before you pay it off. 30 years. It's crazy. Think of all that money that you're putting out every month over 30 years to pay off a $10,000 debt. It's crazy. Pawn shops are going to give you pennies on the dollar. You're not going to get very much of anything from a pawn shop. Automotive dealerships will typically have a higher interest rate because they feel they're taking a higher risk. So mortgage companies are probably a hair above deposit, banks.
Yeah.
So, but if you're going for a house and you need a large sum of money, then you probably would need to go to a mortgage company, right? And again, the interest rate that you get on your mortgage loan is dependent upon your credit score. So when you borrow, you are spending future income. Interest is typically paid for the convenience of using credit. So when you take a loan or you use a credit card, you're paying back a lot of interest on that, especially with the credit card. But that interest that you're paying back is your fee for using that money at that period of time. So you went out and you bought a $150, a futon, right? And you put it on your credit card. Well, they lent you that $150, but you got to pay it back. And the interest that you pay is their charge for using that $150 to get that futon, right? So that's how that works. So you got Toby's automobile loan, $10,000 loan, 8% annual interest rate, monthly payments for 3 years, $1,280.96 paid in interest. That's how much it cost you to get that $10,000 loan, right? Nowadays, they have car loans that are 5-6 years. So credit can be an effective tool if managed responsibly. Sometimes I run into a lot of people down, especially in this area. that don't have any credit at all. And that could be just as bad, if not worse, than having bad credit, believe it or not. Create financial stress and negatively impact quality of life and financial well-being if not managed responsibly. Credit is, I've actually had know of people that lost a job because they had bad credit. One of the requirements to get the job was to have good credit.
That's ridiculous.
The credit wasn't good enough, so I was working for a financial institution. So, it was Capital One.
But still, that's not right.
Well, see, the thing, what their theory is, or their logic behind that is, if they have bad credit, they might find a way to try to steal money to pay off their debt. So that's why they don't wanna have somebody in there with bad credit. And it does kinda say something about the person themselves, right? So an effective tool, if it's managed responsibly, your credit, apartments, get an apartment, they check your credit. Are you gonna pay your rent every month, right? They wanna know that. So if you have bad credit, you may not be able to get the apartment you want, or the house you want, or whatever, right? So it's really important to manage your credit. If you don't have credit, I encourage you to go and get one of the, if you have bad credit, get one of those cards where you pay into, it's a credit card, but you give them like $150 or $500, and that's your credit limit, right? They're not taking any risk because they have your money. Basically, you're borrowing your money, right? But it's a good way if you go to the store and you buy something, some food or whatever, and then you pay it back right away, and you do that over a 6 months to a year period, you're starting to build up good credit now. And then you can start, now you're starting to manage your credit responsibly.
Where would you get a card like that?
They're all over the
Like
place.
NetSpend, plus they have
Oh, I have one
direct
page in our block.
deposit too.
It's like a prepaid card. I load money onto it.
Yeah. And some people work, they can direct deposit their money right into that,
Yeah, that's what I do. I put
Right
direct
into my
deposit
account.
into it.
So if you go to the store and you, well, it depends, it's not, if it's a debit card, it's not the same as a credit card. You have to get a credit card. Because debit card, you're basically, they're not gonna charge you, well, I think they charge you a fee, but they're not gonna charge you interest. Like, if you went out and you put $500 on a prepaid credit card, and then that would be like a credit card with a $500 limit. So if you raise it up to the limit, you put 500, whatever, they're gonna charge you whatever interest rate on that $500 that you
But I
borrow.
don't have an interest rate.
Right, that's a debit card then. You wanna get a credit card, self-paid credit card. They have them out there. You can do you Google a lot and things like that on the
Yeah.
internet? Google it, self-paid credit card, or prepaid credit card, and it'll come up. They're all over.
I went through NetSpend and they wanna charge you every time you use that card.
but if you pay $5 a month, you can withdraw all you want, all month long. That's what I used to do, just pay the $5 a month fee, cause I used it a lot, and I never had to pay, I know what you're talking about. But I got the $5 plan to where after the first swipe, I gotta pay $5, $1 every time. So I said, well, just charge me $5 a month, or I can do unlimited. So wherever I swipe it, it's never charged me.
So you can see how credit is important, right? So if you have good credit, it can be an effective tool and be good, it's good. If you have bad credit, it can really put stress in your life, and you may not be able to get the things you want or need. So, managing credit responsibly, evaluate the purpose. Ask yourself, does the loan or credit provide long-term benefits? Is the item a want or a need? So you may need a car, and that's what, that may be the truth, right? I need a car to get back and forth to work, take the kids back and forth to school or whatever, so you may need a car, or do you want a car? It's cheaper for me to take public transportation, all the places I have to go are on the bus route, so I can spend a lot less money, because with the car, not only do you have the car loan, if you don't have enough money to buy the car outright, but you have insurance, monthly insurance, you got gas, you got, maintenance, tires, and things like that. So there's a lot of costs involved with an automobile, but that's just an example here. But you have to ask yourself, is this a want or a need? Do I really need this, whatever it is that you want to take credit out for? Investing in your human capital with an education loan, that's a good thing, right? You take out a student loan, because, and then you can go to college, you can get a degree, and you get a better job, you make more money. So that could be a good thing, but you have to pay it back. Purchasing a vehicle to get to and from work with an automobile loan. Like I said, you gotta think of long term, there's other costs associated with that. But it can be a means for you to get a job. And it could be a means for you to get a better job, because you may be able, you can start looking at places where maybe it's not on the bus route, right? Or it's where a place where you wouldn't be able to get to via the bus. Of course, there's Uber, but that can get costly too. Having a credit card to securely make online purchases and for emergencies. Well, we have some credit cards, but I don't want to use them unless it's emergency. Right, so, I mean, you just kind of sit on them. Even if the loan provides long-term benefits, the credit terms should still be favorable. You don't want to be paying 25% on a credit card when you can go to the bank and get a loan at 5% or 6%. Okay, so the credit terms should be favorable. Ask yourself, is using money you already have in a savings or investment account a better option? Can you wait to purchase the item until you have enough money saved? Best deal is to buy it outright. Then you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to pay any interest rate. You don't have to pay anybody to get the money. It's outright, it's yours. You know, you saved up enough money and you got it. Benefits: no contract, no interest rate or fees, and you are not spending future income. Because I think that's the part a lot of us forget about, and that is, if I am using this credit card to get that $150 food time, it may cost me, by the time I pay it back, if I pay the minimum, it may cost me, $400. Now I'm spending all that extra money that I'll be gaining in the future. That's gone. Now, whatever you make a month, you have to subtract that amount. So you are spending future income. Does that make sense? Make sense? A contract outlines how and when you will pay the money back. So if you go for a loan at a bank, you're going to have to sign papers. If you go for a loan on a car, you're going to have to sign papers. Are the terms such as interest rates favorable? If you can go to one lending institution and they're going to give you, 8%, but you can go to another institution and they're going to give you 4.5%. Go for the 4.5% again. But you have to watch. You have to watch now. You got to be careful. If you go out and you start shopping loans, and they put a hit on your credit and they do an inquiry on your credit. Every time somebody goes in and puts an inquiry on your credit to get your credit report, that impacts your credit score negatively. So if you have a bunch of, I had a couple of loans that I wanted to consolidate into one loan at a lower interest rate. So I had different companies looking at, to give me a consolidation loan, and they hit my credit score, or they did a credit report on me, and it lowered my score. So and there's a lot of tools out there that you can use to manage your credit score, right?
Who
Like
would you
Credit
go to
Karma.
get a free credit report?
What's that?
Who would you go to get a free credit report?
Well, you can go to creditkarma.com, and that's free.
Don't they charge you, don't they ask you for your credit card?
No?
Go to totallyfreecreditreport.com and you put your information in and it'll give you your credit report for free.
Or Credit Karma is free as well.
Yeah.
Either
Yeah.
one. They're out there. But So if they do a credit, if they pull a credit report and you ask them, is this gonna impact my credit score? Is this gonna, if you pull this report, is it gonna impact my credit score? Are the terms such as interest rates favorable? So what are the interest rates, right, as I said earlier? Is the loan feasible both in the present and in the future? So are you gonna be able to pay off this loan over time? If it's a 5-year period or a 6-year period or whatever it is, are you gonna be able to pay it off over time? There's things you have to take into consideration. Are the terms consistent for the life of the loan? There are variable, especially with mortgages, there are variable interest rates. So if the federal interest rate goes up, then your interest rate's gonna go up on the loan. If it goes down, it's gonna go down. Typically, I personally feel that if you go with a fixed rate loan mortgage, you're better off. But especially if you can get it, lock it in at a lower rate. So it depends, again, it depends. Shop around, get some good financial advice. So I had a lady, one of the ladies from the well, called me about, she was gonna get an apartment. She said, am I gonna be able to afford this? And she told me her financial situation and what she was making and what her bills were. And it turned out that she could afford it, so. But get advice. Connie is available, right? Connie can help. So she's a good asset to have in your back pocket for financial advice. She's a good lady. So the amount you borrow, total amount should be less than 20% of your annual net income. And again, this is a rule of thumb. You don't want to borrow above your means. Monthly payment should be less than 10% of your monthly net income. If you start going much higher than that, you're really going to start impacting the other things in your financial picture. Housing payments are not included as part of the monthly 10%. Because, your home is your home. Why should individuals limit their debt? Why do you want to limit your debt? Why don't you want to get too far in debt?
Want to be able to pay it.
Exactly. Exactly. Closed-end credit installment. What it is. Loan which the borrower must repay the amount in a specified number of equal payments. Features. Contract outlining repayment terms. You're going to get a car loan for $15,000 and you're going to have to pay at, I don't know, whatever, 8%, 6%, 7%, depending on your credit. And you're going to have to pay back, $375 a month. That's the contract, right? That's the repayment terms. Examples. Your mortgage, auto loans, personal loans, student loans. You pay back X amount of dollars every month for a period of time until that loan is paid off. And that loan is going to include whatever you borrowed plus the interest. So, closed-end or installment credit. Toby applied for a $10,000 automobile loan at 8%. He signs a contract with the lender to pay $313.36 per month for 36 months to repay the loan. So, Toby could pay more than $313 per month to pay off the loan earlier, but he must pay at least $313.36 per month. He has to do that for 36 months, which is a 3-year period. Open-ended credit, revolving. What it is, extended line of credit established in advance. So they say, we're going to give you a revolving credit line of $5,000 or $1,200, whatever it is. And you can borrow up, so if you only need $100, then you use $100, but then you're going to have to start paying back that $100. Features. Loan may be paid, usually monthly, in a single payment or series of unequal payments. Examples, credit cards. Credit cards, typically when you take out a credit card, they'll say your credit limit is whatever it is. $500, $1,000, $1,200, $1,500, $5,000, whatever it is. That's your credit limit, and you can borrow up to that limit. Now, the guy that took out the $10,000 loan, was that closed-ended or open-ended credit?
Closed-ended?
Yeah, it was closed-ended, right? It had a contract and a specific amount to pay every month and a specific time period. So, open and revolving credit. Whitney has many options for paying back the $200 as long as she makes the minimum payment. She borrowed $200 and she has many options. So, she can go $200 and then pay nothing back, or she can pay small amounts back, or she can pay, different amounts as long as she pays the minimum. Whitney charged $200 to her credit card with a 13% interest rate. She receives her credit bill with a $20 minimum payment. She has many options for paying back the $200 as long as she makes the minimum payment, right? So, one month she paid $20, the minimum, then she paid an extra $10. Now that 10% comes off the top, so you end up paying back the loan a lot quicker that way. May combine elements of closed and open-ended credit, alternative credit. Usually has higher interest rates, usually has higher fees. Types of alternative credit, payday loans. You don't want to do this, ever. I strongly recommend you don't ever want to do this. Short-term loan that provides immediate cash by securing a borrower's written check or automatic withdrawal form. So they're going to get their money, but you're going to pay for it, trust me. The loan, the total loan was $350. The lender fee was $60. Amount the borrower receives, $290. See what I'm saying? So the loan is for $350, but you're only getting $290 of it. So it's not good. Don't do it. On the agreed upon date, usually payday, lender seeks their fees. By depositing the check or withdrawing the money, that's how they get their money, right? If the money's not there, you're in trouble. If the borrower does not have the money in their account, whoops. Accumulate fees and possible legal actions, or pay $60 fee again to keep the existing loan outstanding, or take out a new loan. So you can see how this can suck up your money real fast. Don't do it. Don't ever do it. Things may be bad, but don't do it. It's too easy, and you have to really pay through the nose in order to get the money. So rent to own, that's another one that's not a good thing. Borrower leases tangible items with the condition that the item will be owned by the rentor if the term of the rent is completed. So you get like a that backpack, right? It's Adidas backpack. You might be able to get that in the store for $20. You go through like Finger Hut. They might have that same exact backpack, but by the time you pay it off, you pay, $50 for it. See what I'm saying? So you're gonna pay through the nose with outrageous amounts of money for the same things you can get in the store for a lot cheaper. Purchase a 50-inch LCD TV valued at $18.90. Pay $39.99 per week for 104 weeks. That's 2 years. Total paid $4,158.96 for an $1,890 TV. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
That is a lot of money to pay for a TV that's only worth less than $2,000. So these what do they call them? Rent-a-centers and errands and those kind of things, it's,
Precise.
yeah, it's not good. So the interest paid was 92% interest. That's crazy. What would be some alternative options? So you wanna get that TV, what are some options that you might wanna use?
Layaway.
Layaway, that's one up, if they, I think Walmart does that right now.
Starting August 31st.
There you go. There you go, layaway, if it fits in your budget, as long as it fits in your budget, yes. What's another way?
Get a smaller TV.
Save.
You might, I mean, if you want to save, that's the best way. Save until you get the 1890 and buy the TV outright. Then you own it, you don't owe anybody anything, and you're good to go. So, you alright?
Yeah, I gotta get
Huh?
I gotta get my goat. Leave, so,
Alright. We're almost done here.
I will see you guys this week. So, talk to you.
So-
Later.
We'll see you. Title or pawn loan. Borrower gives the lender their automotive title or personal property in exchange for cash based on the value of the item. To get their item back, the borrower must pay the lender back cash and fees, interest within a specified time period. If the credit terms are not met, the lender keeps the item. So kiss your car goodbye. And this, I mean, there's places out there where they do this.
Loan max.
What?
Loan max, title max, all that stuff.
Yeah. What are the alternative options? Pretty much what we talked about earlier. Either save and buy it outright, or go to a bank and get a lower interest rate loan. If, you know, something that you can't, you have to get right away, you know, so there are other options that you can do. It's managing your credit. Types of alternative credit: refund, anticipation loan. Lender gives borrower a loan based upon their anticipated tax refund. H&R Block is big for this one. Lender charges the borrower a fee for this service. Borrower authorizes the Internal Revenue Service to deposit money directly into the lender's account. If the borrower's refund was less than the loan amount, they owe the lender the difference. So there's a risk there. How to obtain credit. Exact process depends on the type of credit and lender. Credit application, a form requesting information about a credit application. Typically, you're gonna have to put in there how much money you make, you know, your social security number, the things of that nature, how long you've lived at the place you're living, you know, how much are your bills. Sometimes we'll ask you your bills, but typically the main things they ask is your, how much do you make, bring in a month, and your social security number, and where you live and how long you've lived there. Typical questions: personal information, credit requested, information about your ability to repay the credit. Credit history check. Evaluate your credit report and score. The trade-off to no credit history check is often higher interest rates and fees. So, again, the poorer your credit, the higher the interest rate's going to be on your loan, if you can get it at all. So, shopping for credit. Shop around with different lenders. Terms of credit are outlined in the contract. Read the contract carefully, ask questions, and by all means, ask questions to Connie or somebody that you trust that has, that can help you through the financial questions that you have. Evaluate the contract carefully. These are some of the questions you want to ask. What is the annual interest rate? Are there fees? What are the consequences of a missed or late payment? What happens if the loan is not paid back in full? As example, credit cards might charge you $35 if you're a day or two late, or pay at least the minimum, right, each month. So they hit you up with the fees real quick. What happens if the loan is not paid back in full? you get bad credit. Do you trust and feel comfortable with the lender? So, you know, you don't wanna go to Sloppy Joe's and get a credit. You know, you wanna go to a bank or a reputable organization. Evaluate a contract. Circle items that are potential red flags. Underline the item of credit, annual interest rates, fees, consequences of late missed payments, other things to consider. Another thing too, most places will give you a grace period. If the due date is the 15th, they'll give you till the 25th, or they'll give you a 10-day grace period, or so you don't always have to pay directly on, the due date. Others will be, if you don't hit the due date, you get hit with a fee. So there are options that you have depending on the institution you go to. And is this a contract you would sign? You are responsible for your present self and your future self. You gotta think about that, right? Understand your responsibilities as a borrower. You gotta pay back the loan. Consider future implications to paying back the amount borrowed. And shop around for the best terms. What types of credit will you need in the next 5 years? Where will you go to get it? These are the questions you ask yourself, and when you come to the answers to those questions, I think you'll be in a much better place to make the choices that you need to make. Again, as we talked about, the best thing is just to buy it outright. Save up, and if it's something that you don't need right now, save up and just buy it outright, right? That's the best way to do it.
Yep.
But credit can be, like I said, you may not be able to get a job because you have bad credit, or you may not be able to get a house or apartment because you have bad credit. You may not be able to get a car because you have bad credit. So credit is important. So just be careful when you're if you need to go get credit, just be careful who you borrow from. Make sure you understand the terms, and make sure you're able to meet the terms of the contract throughout the life of the contract. So you gotta think of the future as well, just not today. So remember, when we borrow money, we're paying back the interest on that money for the privilege of having that money today. So it's gonna affect your future money that you make, because that's less money that you're gonna have available. All right, any questions? No?
Can you start over in a second? Can you start?
How you doing?
I had to leave the hospital.
You did what?
I had no babysitter. I had all the kids at the hospital with me, and it wasn't.
So
I'm
they
trying
never,
to find a babysitter.
they never found, did they do any
They
tests?
drew blood, and my white blood. All I got was my white blood cells was really high.
Jeez, infection.
Infection somewhere, and they don't know where. And he wouldn't even sign. The doctor told me he didn't want me to leave. He wanted to give me fluids and things like that, because I kept having them. I had one last night, this morning at the house, like 4 o'clock this morning. It was worse.
Look at
Like,
that.
I don't have a babysitter.
Somebody watch the kids for you.
I tried last night, and everybody watched the kids, so I'm here, my mentor come down and see maybe we can work out something, because the doctor wouldn't even sign a paper to release me. You know how you sign, he said, because I don't agree with it, you need to stay.
Yeah, you need to find out what's causing that.
Yeah, but it keep happening. Every couple hours, I'll get a really bad one. It's not, he said, it's not Charlie horses, you know that. Charlie horse don't go on your side or something.
Uh-huh.
So, and my face numb, got numb, started twitching at the hospital, and they gave me something that, I said, is it a stroke? It's something with my nerves, I don't know.
Wow.
But thank you guys, I apologize, I want to apologize, because that was scary for me, and I know it was scary for you guys.
No, we're just concerned for you.
It was, I've never felt that type of scream. That was like labor in my stomach, in my legs and in my stomach.
Wow.
And I've given natural birth, Mr. Orlando.
What?
I've given natural birth, so.
Nothing worse
So
than that.
that's nothing worse prepared,
Oh,
so.
we're recording all this.
I've been in the hospital for both my son's deliveries, and y'all can have that. Have that.
Orlando, how do you turn this off? That's why
You're
God
welcome.
gave women the privilege to give birth.
Yep.
Oh, I see it.